What's up everyone, today I'm going to be doing a quick demonstration on why dynamics are incredibly important in your mix and master. I have a demo project here which I think is going to show this quite well, because I actually had a bit of a mixing problem with this track, and that's kind of what led me down to wanting to show this in this video, because I thought the results of what I kind of found here were pretty interesting. So what I'm going to do right here to demonstrate this, I'm going to play this entire little drop that I've made twice. The first time, we are going to have on our mastering chain, which is basically just this Pro MB and this ozone. This is a pretty loud master, it's going to be hitting right at 0, except I've turned it down a little bit on the master itself, so you're going to notice that actual peak is around -6 or so. That's just because the second time we go through, I'm going to turn off that ozone, and I want you to pay attention to what you think sounds better. I've purposely made the comparisons a little bit long so you could really get a second to kind of familiarize yourself with the track. Feel free to listen to them a few times, they'll have them time-coded, but let's go ahead and give this a play right now. So that's the track I put together, and I noticed right away that when I took off that ozone, the track felt to me a lot cleaner, and specifically like the snare and the drums, things like that, just felt like they were punching a bit harder, and thinking about this in terms of how this is made, it makes a lot of sense. When I have ozone on, I'm using the maximizer for basically hard limiting the track, you're of course trimming down my snare in particular, which I did mix quite loud into this track kind of on purpose. If we go ahead and play a section with drums again, you see my snare is what really makes this get a bit louder. The Pro MB is actually because my initial problem when I was mixing this track was the snare was too loud even when everything was basically flat at 0. The snare just was perceived as too loud. If I turn off the Pro MB, you'll really see it. This is the problem area that I initially had with this track, and you see my snare really loud. It's going quite a bit above that here, and that's really the loudest element. You see the kick is kind of sitting right at 0, our lead and bass, which is kind of stacked together, right at 0 as well. The snare was the thing that was poking out. So I used the Pro MB to kind of tame that a little bit, which I think was a positive improvement. So versus this, I think this one, the snare just sounds way too loud. It's not good. But when we put back on our hard limiting at the end, the dynamics are gone, which, in a dance track, you kind of want to have your competitive loud master or whatever. But I think in this specific instance, it's really taking away from this track. And ideally, when you're mastering something like this, you'll want to find a nice medium kind of middle point, so that way you could have the best of both. I did make a video before talking about how I master and how I do things at 0, and I kind of go for this process often. But this is something that when you're doing that, which I still recommend, to be honest, that's still the way I go about doing things, and I think, in general, usually it sounds great for the kind of music I make. But this is one of the things you have to keep in mind and kind of work around if you do that, because if you do work like that, you're not going to have a lot of space for those dynamics, and you're going to want to find ways to get them in anyway. Because even if you're making music like this, like EDM, dance music, whatever, but dynamics are a very good thing, and it's super important, I feel, to keep in mind. And if you listen to that comparison and you didn't hear a difference, don't feel bad. It's honestly something that I think, in part for me, it's because I made this track. I know, because I've been sitting here for the past hour or so making this, I'm very familiar with every little bit of how this sounds, and I could very easily notice little changes, but also it's just something you kind of get an ear for the longer you're making music. And again, I encourage you, if you don't hear a difference, to go back and forth and listen to where I have in the timestamps for the on versus off. Go back and forth and listen to it and see if you can pick it out. I'm specifically looking for the punchiness of my drums, and what I can actually do is turn off our lead so we just get our drums here. You see our snare's really crushed here, but if we turn off that ozone again, and if we turn off the Pro MB to kind of exaggerate how loud our snare was before, I think those differences are incredibly noticeable. You'll notice the Pro MB is kind of reducing the snare a bit, just making it gel with everything else, and it's also making the top sound a bit more hype because I'm doing some additional compression up there. Just little differences like that you should be able to kind of notice the more you train your ear for what they sound like. And I hope this video did help you out with spotting that difference. Hopefully you do agree with me. Let me know in the comments section below. Have you noticed this before? Like, do you want to get more dynamics out of your kind of louder masters? What do you usually do for that? There's a couple of techniques you could employ to try and fix a problem like that, but I'm curious what you guys do as well. Drop a like on the video if it helped you out, and subscribe for more music production content from me. But thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.